Good afternoon. It is Tuesday. We are back. We being Sean Williams and Gabe DeArmond. Our names are in front of us so you can tell which one is which. This is the Tuesday Tiger Recruiting Show where we talk, oddly enough, about Tiger recruiting on Tuesdays. We will do that shortly. I want to draw your attention either in the upper left hand of your screen to the little business card icon or across the bottom of the screen, where James Carlton's contact information will be scrolling throughout this show, however long it may last. James Carlton, State Farm at carltoninsurance.net, 314-961-4800, where they really have two goals. They want to save you money on your insurance, and they want to provide you good customer service and a good experience working with their company. Team of 8, they're always going to have a human being there to answer the phones, at least during business hours. I wouldn't suggest calling at 11:30 this evening. Probably you're not going to get a real person then, but you never know. Maybe James puts his personal cell phone number here on our show. But if you've got any insurance needs, questions, just looking for a little bit better deal, anything, get in touch with James Carlton State Farm, and they're going to take care of you. Tell him you heard about it on Power Mizzou, and he's going to donate $20 to Mizzou's NIL collective, advancing Missouri athletes. If your insurance costs a leg and an arm, James Carlton State Farm is where you want to go. Again, that information, if you're watching on YouTube, scrolling across the bottom of the screen throughout the show, probably doesn't scroll across the bottom of the screen on the podcast. I don't really know how that works, to be quite honest. But Sean, what's up, man? How you doing?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
I'm doing okay. It's a big week for you. You cover Vanderbilt recruiting and Mizzou recruiting. It's a titanic clash in the SEC for supremacy of, I don't know, the Missouri to Nashville corridor, at least.
Yeah, supremacy for not being dead last in the SEC.
Right. That 13th place trophy up for grabs this weekend. But, hey, there is a game. That means Missouri's at home. Kids will likely be on campus. I assume we'll see some of the usual faces, some of these kids that, you know, Jamal Roberts, Brett Norfleet, these guys seem to come to pretty much every game they can. And I know you had news yesterday of someone or other whose name I can't remember who's visiting Missouri this weekend.
Yeah, one of their new offensive line targets. His name's John Bragg, and Missouri is his only offer right now. Kid out of Lyndon B. Johnson High School. That's in Austin, Texas. I think there's like a couple of Lyndon B. Johnson High Schools in Texas. So this is the Austin version. But anyway, he's a two-way lineman, but looks like Missouri likes him on the offensive side of the ball. Seems like he's a highly skilled kid there. Kansas, I think, is like another school that's showing some interest in him, but nobody's really pulled the trigger yet except Missouri. So I asked him, if he's still hearing from the staff. He's like, yeah, I'm coming down for a visit this weekend. So, we've talked about offensive line kind of being a focal point for this class going forward. You got to add some more bodies with, you got Logan Riker, but they obviously want to add some more bodies. And, they're throwing out some offers. They've thrown out some new offers this fall, and he's one of them, and he's coming in for a visit. And if Missouri is his only offer and they really want him, gotta think there's probably a good shot that he might commit. So it's going to be and it's going to be like, look, it's going to be one of those. It's not going to blow anybody out of the water. Nobody's going to really talk about him a whole lot. But it's going to be kind of one of those. We'll see how it goes once he gets to college and see how he develops. So.
Yeah, I would feel like odds are good if you're a kid's only offer, and if you want him, that you'll probably get him. I do want to invite you guys that are watching live with us, by the way, if you've got comments, questions, critiques of our outfits, criticisms, whatever, put them in the queue. I can moderate it before I put it on the screen. So anything that you guys want to talk about or bring up, please do so, and we will get to those throughout the show. But Sean, you wrote kind of the reset on the offensive line this morning. And I mean, it's, I don't know, man. I think there's reason for concern here because this is not a position where Missouri is very good right now. 2 years ago, the Connor Tollison class, he was the only lineman they had commit. Then they got, I think they got 3 or 4 last year. Armand Mimbo's already playing, Tristan Wilson, Curtis Piegler. I'm missing one other guy that's not quite playing yet, Makai Lee. So there are some guys there, but I've got to think they want at least 2 or 3 more linemen. And the simple fact of the matter is it's going to be one of 2 things. It's either going to be transfers or it's going to be kids that are kind of under the radar that, like you said, aren't like there aren't 4-star linemen out there that they might get right now that we know of. And by the way, Caden Green is not flipping. I've talked to somebody last week who talked to Caden. That's not a thing.
Yeah, look, I know Oklahoma's not didn't look good against Texas, but I mean, I think they'll be okay.
Or
TCU, to be honest with you.
or
yeah, well, there is that.
They haven't looked good this year, but
didn't have the quarterback though, Dylan Gabriel. That kind of makes a difference too, So when you want to put points on the board, but no, I mean, yeah, you're right, Gabe. I just talked about the John Bragg guy, and he's very, look. You look at his recruiting profile; it's kind of underwhelming. Missouri's his only offer, so they obviously see something in him. But you'd like to see some offers from some other Power 5 teams that maybe like him as well. That it just hasn't materialized yet. So it's going to be kind of one of those situations where you got to kind of those 4-star offensive linemen. They're already taken,
Right.
Power 5 schools like them, and they already got them. So you're going to have to flip one that's maybe committed to a school that just fired their head coach, and maybe you can flip a guy like that. So that's a possibility, or transfer portal's always another option there. So all the guys I put on the list, and I kind of focused on new offer guys that they've offered since like August. So throughout the fall, they've evaluated their film. One of them's a JUCO guy, really good. He's blown up. He's probably one of the best JUCO offensive linemen out there. So odds of him coming to Missouri, probably pretty slim. So, you got another West Coast guy. He's probably not going to come because he's from Arizona. Missouri doesn't get a lot of kids from Arizona. You've got Mason Goldman. That's a guy that's kind of intriguing, and he kind of told me that he was very interested in visiting Missouri, and that might materialize. But he's from Nebraska. Nebraska just offered. Now, obviously, you've got the coaching situation in Nebraska. You don't know what's going to happen there. If Mickey Joseph is going to be the head coach, or if they're going to hire somebody new, and everything's going to kind of start over from there. But programs like K-State and others are kind of after him. He's kind of more of a late bloomer too. So all these guys, probably if there's one thing most of these offensive linemen have in common, most of them on this list are all late bloomers that have kind of shown out, got some good senior film out there, and coaches are kind of following them and starting to offer them. So,
yeah, the other position that I'm interested in is cornerback. So, Eli Drinkwitz said after the Florida game, well, first of all, they took Marcus Clark at the beginning of the year, and I was vocal, like, I don't get it. What are you doing? You're just pushing some of these guys further down the depth chart and all that. But they took 3 scholarship corners to Florida, and he was one of the 3. Chris Abrams-Drain was hurt. He's back now. But I asked Drinkwitz about this today, and he kind of explained the situation. So DJ Jackson was suspended, is no longer suspended. Davion Sistrunk was suspended, is still suspended. LJ Hewitt was suspended, is still suspended. So Chris Abrams-Drain is a guy who, look, I don't think he goes pro after this year, but it's not impossible. So you've got Ennis Rakestraw, you've got Marcus Clark. DJ Jackson at this point is barely playing and was suspended. You have to account for him transferring. Davion Sistrunk has not seen the field. You have to account for him transferring. LJ Hewitt has played 3 snaps and is suspended. You have to consider that he might not be on the team next year. They better go find some dudes in the defensive backfield.
Funny, we talked about the recruiting reset article I did today. I just did one for defensive backs as well. And that seems to be the common theme. They have 3 already, but it seems like
they do have some.
Yeah, they've got 3 already, but it seems like they definitely want 1 or 2 more at least, and they're continuing to offer guys. They offered 2 new guys yesterday. So they offered the CJ Johnson kid, the safety out of Texas. And he told me, he's like, yeah, I've been talking to Baker. I really like him. Like, we're trying to set up a visit date to come down there. So he's a guy that's probably going to come down there. And they offered the JUCO kid, the Channing Canada, which we're trying to figure out if that's Matt Canada's kid or not.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he's he's a JUCO kid. He's got a handful of Power 5 offers, like from Illinois, Indiana. I think Maryland offered him today. So he's kind of a guy that's kind of blowing up, but he's a JUCO kid, and they've offered another JUCO kid named Kendall Doby, which I've talked about him previously. He's a guy that wants to come down for a visit. He was one of those that they offered in mid-September. It was kind of a nice wave of JUCO offers they kind of threw out there in mid-September. But he told me that Alpo came and visited him at his school last week during Missouri's bye. So he's a guy that they're trying to get to campus too, and he said he's probably going to visit after his season's over with too. So I mean, there's three guys right there that seems like they got a pretty decent shot to get on campus and at least kind of impress them and see what happens from there.
And the three they have so far: Philip Roach, who we believe is likely a safety. Nicholas DeLoach is being targeted as a corner, 6'1", 170. And then the third guy is Shamar McNeil from Florida, 6'3", 175. I don't know. Is he a corner or a safety? Most likely.
That's a good question. Now, like I kind of, with Philip Roach or Roche, however you want to say that, I'm like you. I kind of classify him as maybe a safety. I think he told Clint Cosgrove that they like his versatility. So a guy that can probably play multiple positions. Same thing with probably DeLoach. McNeil, a lot of his huddle highlights are just him. He's an outside guy, so I'm assuming that's where they like him, but I don't know. Well, I guess we'll see when he gets to campus, but it seems like he's more of a natural outside cornerback. So I know with the Dolby kid, the JUCO kid that's in Oklahoma, he said Pope likes him, likes his versatility too. Can play outside corner, inside corner, safety. So I mean, he's kind of a versatile kind of guy too. So and that CJ Johnson kid's kind of the same mode as a Shamar McNeil, and just in terms of size and frame, he's 6'3" as well. So yeah.
So I wanted to highlight a couple guys who had pretty good weeks as far as the Missouri commit list goes. Last week Drew King was up in Kansas City watching Josh Manning play and had 9 catches for 133 yards and 3 touchdowns. Lee Summit got beat 48-28, but without Josh Manning, I guess it would have been 48-7. That would seem to be a pretty good night for the receiver.
Yeah, that was a good game, and that was pretty exciting. We put some good highlights up there on Twitter too, so a really good job by Drew on his coverage, and had a lot of updates on the board. And it's always good whenever you have somebody go cover a game and you get like instant stats from them too while they're there. So
right, and
helps for the Following the Future feature on Monday mornings.
Right, and unfortunately for you, Nicholas DeLoach did not have his big game when you were there. But last week, the stats I got said 2 interceptions, one of them returned 90 yards for a touchdown, 3 touchdown catches, and a punt return for a touchdown. You probably should have waited a week before you watched him play.
Yeah, obviously I went at the wrong time, but hey, it kind of worked out travel-wise for me in terms of he was a little bit closer to my house. So unfortunately, he probably might have had like his worst statistical game of the season that night, and then he backed it up with a 4-touchdown performance the week after. But yeah, I mean, DeLoach, I mean, it kind of shows off, just his versatility on both sides of the ball. Obviously, he's going to play in the secondary for Missouri, but, 2 touchdowns, a 90-yard interception return, a 65-yard punt return. So, I mean, that kind of shows you that maybe he can help you out on special teams, too, if you're in a pinch, so.
Great athlete. And look, with the situation we just talked about at DB, like maybe a kid you look at and say, hey, low-key, maybe he sees the field next year. We're going to talk to Marcus Clark tonight at Media Day. That'll be our first chance to talk to him. Kind of be interested to see what he says about his first year at Mizzou. Want to go ahead now, and unless, Sean, you have other pressing topics, I'll go ahead and get to the questions. But if you have something you really want to say, please go ahead and say it.
Oh, I think it's interesting that during the bye week, Drinkwitz did go to North Kansas City and watch Edric Hill and PJ Otabare play. So, I mean, I think people ask me about that because I put it on the board, what are the chances of them flipping? I'm like, probably not. Probably slim.
My initial reaction is no way, but he only gets to go to 1 or 2 games. I can't imagine why he would go to a game at a place where he thought he had no chance at a guy.
Right. I guess there's, like I said on the board, do I think there's a chance? No, but I mean, apparently Drink does because he's, taking a visit up there. And like you said, you only get so many of those to kind of, go and check out each recruit or target you're after.
Especially on a bye week when it's not like he had to get back to Columbia that night.
Right. So I thought that was kind of interesting too. And also something else I want to throw out there, LSU offered Brett Norfleet as well. So, I mean, that's kind of
Have we
interesting and
talked to
intriguing.
him about that? Do we know if that's anything that's really on his radar or not?
Don't know yet. I've had the LSU people reach out to me and ask, so I don't know if that's a thing. But it is interesting that he tweeted it out, and I don't know what the communication status is between him and the LSU coaches, or if it's just kind of one of those random things where they said, "Hey, we like your film, we
Right.
want to offer you a scholarship." So, yeah, we'll kind of see and kind of reach out and see what we hear about that.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on that one. Want to go ahead and get to some of the questions you guys have had. And again, if you've got questions or comments, feel free to post them, and we will spend the second part of the show looking at those. AU Stock says, I can't remember, is the early signing day going to include junior college kids? It includes the JUCO kids who graduate in December. It does
Right.
not include, well, I mean, it could include the kids who graduate in May, but
Right.
I mean, they're not going to be on campus for spring football.
Exactly. It's pretty much just like high school. Some of those kids can enroll early. Some of those kids will graduate middle of the year, but yeah, they can sign in December if they want to.
Yeah, and that early signing day, it's usually around like December 19th. I don't know exactly when it is this year, but
I had to look at the calendar, but I think it's the 15th, but I'm not 100% sure. I'd have to look at the calendar in front of my face. So.
yeah, well, and that's almost going to be secondary because, like we talked a little bit last week, December 5th is transfer portal day. I mean, like I was talking to somebody yesterday, there could be 500 kids enter the portal that day, don't you think? Like, I mean, I'm not even joking.
I mean, yeah, because there's already people like just covering the portal myself. There's already, I'm trying to think of the number off the top of my head. There might be like 5 kids already this week that's kind of said, "Hey, I'm going to enter the portal on December 5th. I'm just announcing it right now. I'm registering, and I'll have X amount of years of eligibility left. So I'll see you on December 5th."
Right, and the big part of that is because, okay, let's say for sake of argument, it is. Well, it'll probably be December 20th, 21st, something like that is the early signing period. Well, if you are a transfer, you better get your name in the portal on that day, December 5th, because that gives you 2 full weeks before that early signing period. And while you don't have to make a decision, coaches are going to want to get things done as soon as they can and know exactly how many spots they have. The good transfers, the kids that have options are, hey, they can do it whenever they want. But if you're kind of one of those borderline transfers, you better get in the portal and see if you can find a spot in those 2 weeks.
Yeah, you bet. Especially the mid-year guys, the guys that want to transfer mid-year and get things started in the spring at a new school. Yeah, they got to get in there ASAP. So that's why you're seeing a lot of these guys that are kind of already opting to do that, to take a red shirt, and they're going ahead and announcing that so they can let coaches know. It's like, hey, I'll be in there the 5th, man. Just holla at me.
I mean, let me just say right now, the first 3 weeks in December are going to be awful for us.
It will be. It's
going to be a nightmare.
It'll be like I'll always try to keep things in perspective. I'll probably laugh a lot more than I'll be frustrated in covering everything, just because it's just going to be so chaotic, and I'm just going to scratch my head because it might be chaotic for Missouri, but I'm sure like at places like LSU or someplace like that, bigger places, I'm sure it'd be like just some funny stories to kind of see transpire whenever everything pops up. So,
and it's going to be like the kid who wants a drink, but instead of opening the garden hose, he stands in front of a fire hydrant, and it's just like, oh my God.
Right.
So a little bit of overflow. KD Butter asks, for the offensive line, are they better off looking JUCO or looking in the portal? Look, I don't like junior college recruiting. It usually doesn't pan out. I mean, every now and then you'll get a guy, but I would be willing to bet if you go back and look at JUCO kids who sign at a Power 5 school, I'd be willing to bet that more than 50% of them don't ever become like starting productive players.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of examples from Missouri the last few years since I've been covering them. Yeah, and that's probably a very accurate statement. JUCO guys rarely pan out. So yeah, the portal would be the way to go, and we've talked about this. With Missouri, you might want to be, it's kind of one of those situations where maybe you look at a Power 5 guy, but a lot of guys, a lot of offensive linemen that enter the portal, if you're a Power 5 guy and you have starting experience, Power 5 programs, big Power 5 programs, going to be all over you in no time. But you got to kind of be a little bit sneaky if you're Missouri. Like look for a G5 guy that's like an all conference USA type of player, or even an FCS player that's been
like a DJ Cole from last year.
Like all FCS player, like 2 years in a row. You got to look at those type of guys and try to get them in and say like, hey, step up and play some SEC football for us. We got opportunities here. So.
No question. AU Stock says, what's the date that a Mizzou fan should go from when are we going to recruit linemen to we still haven't recruited a lineman? I mean, ultimately, like December 20th because of the portal stuff. But I mean, look, it's not going to be a star-studded offensive line class. That doesn't mean it can't be good. Like we've seen dudes here like Justin Britt and Connor McGovern, and offensive line is a place that you can be kind of a so-so recruit and turn into a really good player.
Mm-hmm.
But again, you're just not going to see 4-star kids there. Not this year.
Right. I mean,
beyond the one they have.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. Especially in the high school ranks. I think we're kind of going to see under the radar guys, like the one that's coming in this weekend, or we're going to see transfers. I mean, I think it's kind of the route you want to go. I kind of agree with you, Gabe, and maybe staying away from JUCO guys. And like I said, they did offer that one kid, Coffeyville kid, and he's kind of blown up a little bit. So I don't think Missouri is going to be able to get him on campus or anything like that. But yeah, I think you got to go under the radar high school recruit or transfer portal. That's kind of going to be the route Missouri is probably going to go here.
Yeah. Kyle says, I think this is going to be a bigger portal class than I initially thought. Don't see too many impact kids in the class that will help right away. I mean, let's say, first of all, addressing that, we don't know. Like, there's no reason Jamal Roberts and Joshua Manning can't play next year. Mm-hmm. There's no reason any of those 3 defensive backs we mentioned can't play next year. Blake Craig, if Missouri would need him to play, could probably kick next year. I mean, that's half your class right there. But the other thing is, at Missouri, I largely don't think you are recruiting for next year. I mean, if this team's going to be better next year, it's not going to be because of the 2023 recruiting class. It's going to be because of Sam Horn and Luther Burden and Dominic Lovett and Mekhi Miller and Tavoris Jones and Xavier Simmons and these guys that have been on the roster for a year or two but haven't yet kind of made that full move. That's what makes the team better next year. It's not like you're going to go sign 5 starters this year.
Yeah, you can expect. It's hard to expect any true freshman to come in and start right away. Depending on, you're going to get your outliers. You're going to get maybe 2 or 3 guys, maybe tops. But yeah, I mean, you can't just expect true freshmen to come into a college, SEC level especially, and then just start. I mean, it will happen, but it's just going to be few and far between.
I mean, let's look at this year's team. There is 1 true freshman starting, and if we're just going by production and what's happened on the field, he probably shouldn't be starting because he hasn't been one of Missouri's 3 best receivers. So.
Right.
I mean, that's the number 4 kid in America. So if you are out there recruiting with the idea of we have these holes and we got to sign high school kids to be better so we're better next year. I don't know any way to say it other than you're screwed already.
Yeah. And it's like we've been saying on this, and you've said it multiple times, this is where we're going to see these last couple of classes from Drinkwitz, kind of see what they're made of, and see how they develop.
They are the future of the program. Now, whether that's good, bad, or indifferent, we don't know, but that's the future of this program for the next 2 years.
The immediate future. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I just don't think you're out there. I mean, look, if Jabari Johnson is on the field next year, he is either a freak show talent or Missouri's in big, big trouble. There's no in between there.
Yeah, well, I mean, hey, QB is always interesting to talk about with Missouri nowadays.
No question. Yeah, well, I know we talked about that a lot last week, and look, they could go portal shopping there. It'll be interesting to see what happens. We do have we got a few more minutes here. If you guys want to get any last questions in, feel free. I do. This is largely a football recruiting show, but I do want to mention that this weekend Missouri has Peyton Marshall visiting on the basketball front. He is listed at 6'10", 305. So, Sean, maybe he's the offensive tackle they need to sign. I mean,
I
pretty
would, I would,
athletic, D1
I
basketball
would,
offers.
I mean, look, he's got the way, but I would say might be lacking in the leverage department, and just in terms of,
Six,
maybe a little too tall to get down low on some of those guys on the blocks.
the only guy I
Pad level's going to be a problem there.
Yeah, I remember a few years ago. I don't know. This has probably been a decade now. I'm dating myself, but there was a kid named Dan Skipper that Missouri offered. I think he was 6'10" and might have started at Colorado, ended up at Arkansas, or might have just gone to Arkansas. I can't remember, but I think we had him. I'm going to look him up. I'm pretty sure he was listed as a 6'10" offensive lineman, and I mean, he was every bit of it. Bobby Lawrence, who's on Missouri right now, is, I think we've got him listed somewhere around 6'8". Yeah, Dan Skipper, offensive tackle, class of 2013 out of Arvada, Colorado, signed with Arkansas, 6'10", 295 pounds. By the way, went on to be a pretty good offensive lineman at Arkansas, and I believe played in the NFL for a while.
Yeah, I remember his name. I didn't remember he was that tall though.
Yeah, no question. Kyle mentioning C.Y. Young on, we had him, Missouri's associate head basketball coach, on another podcast I do. This is what I do in my free time, Sean. I just do podcasts here and there, whatever. People are like, yeah, we'll send you a check or a gift card. Do you want to do a podcast? I'm like, yeah, let's do it. But we had CY on yesterday, talked a lot about recruiting philosophies. And there is one crossover here that I think would be interesting. He said that in most cases, he would rather recruit a really good 3 or 4 year college player than a one and done. Now, I know one and dones don't exist in football. So look, if you can go get a 5-star, you get a 5-star, but there is still some, like, you don't necessarily recruit every kid just because he's a 4 or 5-star. Like, some of them aren't going to work, and you've got to assess locker room fit. Like, recruiting rankings are important. They're not the only thing.
Oh yeah, that's true. I mean, but look, I mean, you kind of see a lot of these. I mean, we're talking about Luther Burden here. He's not the best receiver on Missouri's roster right now, and he's probably not the third best receiver right now.
Right.
That's just kind of the way it is. And you kind of see the same thing in basketball. A lot of those 5-stars, a lot of people had the mindset, oh, he's rated 5-star. He's just going to be there for a year and he's going to the NBA. Then he gets to college, and then it's not exactly so easy once you get there, and you're playing kids that are a lot more talented than what you're used to playing against, so on a daily basis. So yeah, I mean, it's rankings are just kind of, look, they're kind of opinions. So 5-stars don't necessarily work. There's a lot of 5-stars that don't work out in football either. So
yeah. So, it'll be, I mean, again, home game this weekend. We should have some kids in town, should have some things to talk about, I would think. Always interesting to kind of walk around the sidelines and just see who's there. Like, the way I do it is I'm just like, hey, that kid looks pretty good. Let me go read his name tag. Right. And, hey, he looks like he could play football. And then I find out if I'm right or not if I've ever heard of them. Or I just text you a list and say, I don't know who any of these guys are. But
I like getting a random Saturday text like, hey, who's so-and-so? I'm like, oh, yeah, they offered him.
Yeah, you're like, he committed 2 months ago. You should probably have some idea who he is.
But yeah, it's very important. And Gabe, we're entrusting you to give us a little bit more of a spicier chamber this week. So
I will do my best. I will throw a ray of sunshine on your cloudy Friday this weekend, maybe, and we'll see how that goes. But I don't know, Sean, anything that has to be said before I read a quick commercial and let everybody go about their day?
Nothing that really has to be said. I think we covered everything just in terms of the intriguing North Kansas City trip from Drinkwitz, and LSU offering Brett Norfleet, and just kind of going over, kind of the projections of what we think will be the rest of the offensive line class and the secondary. I think those are probably the two positions. Obviously, linebacker is another one, and we're kind of, but when it comes to linebacker and looking at options there, it seems like it's Antoine Hayden, the Illinois commit, and I don't really see another guy out there they're really after.
Has Kavion Thunderbird committed anywhere yet?
He is not. So I'm kind of curious.
I'm still going to hold out hope for him.
I'm curious. He did come in for the visit in July, and they were going to kind of assess his film and see if he was kind of more of a committable guy. during the fall. So I don't know what the if that has happened yet or not. It doesn't seem that way. I don't see any smoke from that that direction. So
well, if you happen to get in touch with him, let him know that I desperately want Missouri's linebacking core to be Little John and Thunderbird in 3 years. So he needs to go ahead and come on and commit to Missouri.
That definitely sounds like a movie that Burt Reynolds would star in.
1970s for sure. Dom DeLuise is also in that show. But appreciate you guys who took a little time out of your Tuesday afternoon to join us and watch live. If you did that on the YouTube channel, just share it, like it, subscribe, all those things that you're supposed to do on YouTube. If you're listening on the podcast, which I'll put up later, again, leave us a nice rating, leave a good comment. It does help more and more people find out about what we're doing and all that. So we always like that. We like it when people watch and say things to us. We'd prefer they be nice, but even if they're mean, at least it means you're paying attention. So, but if you want to hear nice things about your insurance, what you do, you get in touch with James Carlton State Farm in St. Louis, carltoninsurance.net. The phone number is 314-961-4800. If you're over the age of 75 and still use Facebook regularly, you might need some life insurance, but also facebook.com/Carlton Insurance. Check them out there. They've got some teen driver programs, life insurance, home insurance, auto insurance, all that. Anything you might need, just call James. Mention that you heard about it on Power Mizzou. If he gives you an insurance quote, hopefully it's going to be a good quote. You're going to save some money and you're going to go ahead and make James your insurance agent. But even if you don't, if you get a quote from him, he's going to donate $20 to Advancing Missouri Athletes, the Mizzou NIL Collective. That's what Michael Scott calls a win-win-win. I don't know who the third winner is in there. I guess the college athlete who eventually gets your $20. So do that. We appreciate it. I'll be back tomorrow with Gerard Hamilton and Chris Lee from VandySports.com previewing the title match for number 13 in the SEC this weekend. Until then, we'll talk to y'all later.